everything's going according to the rehab plan as far as I've seen. Looked great throwing the ball. You can tell he's in shape and his arm's in shape and his timing's good. All those things still didn't seem to be affected at all. So that was a positive thing. You never know until you get out there what it's going to look like. So that part was great. He looked good the last 2 days, and it's nice to have him out there.
What are the main objectives as you guys are getting him kind of acclimated? What are you looking for in these first 2 practices?
Just really those things, that idea of throwing the ball on time, throwing the ball live to receivers again. Just it's been a couple of weeks, since you've been in pads on the football field and normal spacing and normal speeds and all that. So to throw those balls, to get that timing down, to get back comfortable, seeing a defense and playing fast and all that is probably a huge part of it. So obviously the next step is getting those live, intense team periods that you feel all of it together. So it's been a good start.
Jamar and T both talked a little bit yesterday, Brian, about not trying to do too much too fast. At least they didn't want him doing that. From your perspective, can he just jump right back in and get up to speed that fast?
I think so. He's in a unique spot with the continuity we've had here, the continuity in the system, the continuity with the players. It doesn't take him a whole lot of time. It's part of what makes him special to begin with, and so those are his strengths that he's playing into. But those guys like to. I guess they must have stayed at Holiday Inn last night. But, I think the plan has been in place, and Joe and Nick Cosgray and Matt Summers, those guys have done a great job of getting him to this point and getting him through to the end of it with the rehab process.
We obviously have multiple kind of scenarios where he's missed camp, but it's not like last year he was able to do stuff, and so that's got to be a big benefit. It's not like he couldn't lift or throw or do things like that.
Yeah, physically he's in a much different place than last year too. Obviously extremely different circumstances, but to have relative physical health outside of a muscle strain is a bonus, because last year was very different because it was a surgery and it was a sickness and all that stuff that goes into play. So it's a little easier to kind of get back on the bike and ride than it was maybe last year. So that part's been good to see. He's proven that's where he's at as far as getting out and throwing on time and throwing velocity. All that stuff is all still there, so that's good.
Were you able to get him into team today?
Team periods?
Yeah, were you able to get?
Yeah, he's in and around it. He's not doing a ton. We're still being real cautious about having people around him and having to react, with the burst and the suddenness that could come up in a team period. So we're just trying to be smart about that process.
So you got him in a team setting, but not a.
Yeah, we just be smart about what we're asking to do and when. It's now we get a handful of days ahead of us still to recover, and we get a chance to come back ready to work on Monday.
Would you want him in team situations? Is that?
No, I think he wants to be as much as possible. We're just trying to be smart about when and where those things occur until he's fully good to go, and so we'll be smart about it.
What does he need to be ready for Cleveland now? Would he need one of or 2 of those days?
Oh, I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would prefer that. Yeah, I mean that would be ideal. But I think he's in a good place, and we got a good plan in place for him to get ready for week 1.
Kind of putting the injury completely aside, is there a part of Burrow's game or something about Burrow that you're really excited to see this year?
I mean, I'm just excited to see him throwing the football at this point. No, I think there's a lot of things that I'm excited about. I think he plays the position in a unique manner, and to be able to watch him play on time and throw with the timing and anticipation that he does is pretty unique, and those are always my favorite ones from the time he got here till now, and he's only gotten better. So I think that I just like to see him play football. It's fun.
What did you think about Will Grier, and what do you remember about maybe evaluating him when he was coming out of college?
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Will. I mean, he had a successful college career. I was pretty high on him just as a personal evaluation coming out of college. He's got great feel. You can see when he goes and plays games, there's something else about him when he plays. He's got a little edge to him. He's really smart. I'm happy he's here. I think he's going to help us. But yeah, I've been a fan of his, just a quarterback play. I like to watch him. I thought it was really cool what he went out and did the other night in Dallas. That was kind of back against the wall, trying to prove how you can play in this league, and he did. I thought that was a pretty cool moment for him personally, and I'm excited to have him.
Could that be a case, Brian, of right player, right fit? Get him into the right system where he's the most comfortable, and maybe this one's it?
Yeah, I think there's always an element of quarterbacks being in a system that fits them. I think he's done a pretty good job he's done a pretty good job of doing that in Dallas. I mean, he's been productive there as a preseason player. But, yeah, system is always important. You always want those guys to feel like they're comfortable and in a spot where they can play fast and play on time.
You talked about Burrow's uniqueness. It's that rhythm. It's that it's the timing, the accuracy. Is that the thing that's harmed the most by him being out so long? I mean, or is that something he was able to maybe maintain?
I don't think so. I mean, from everything I've seen, no, it hasn't been an issue at all in the last 2 days. I think everything's looked relatively normal as far as timing and anticipation goes and accuracy and all that. Like, those are the things that he does outstanding. And so I wouldn't expect them to be much different. I mean, any player needs to get the feel back again, but I don't think it doesn't take long. So I felt really good about the work he's put in the last 2 days.
What's he been like in meetings before he came back on the field as y'all were getting through preps? What's he been like? Has he been more vocal than usual? What's that input been like from him as he get ready for this year?
When we're in a unit meeting, he's like, when receivers and tight ends and those guys are in there, you want me to wait? I'll wait. I don't want to screw up your microphones. He's been way more vocal this year in general, from the start of the offseason program until through training camp. He's still involved in all that stuff. He coaches pretty actively now, probably more than he ever has. He is not afraid to speak up. Now, it's not like he's talking the whole time. He's very selective with, as you guys know, with what he says and how he says it, and so it lands with maximum impact when he has something to say. In the quarterback meetings, he's been the same guy the whole time. He's fun to listen to, and he's got a lot of opinions about how things should look and we listen to him, and that's kind of what makes, I think, our setup pretty unique. So I've seen a growth in the meeting room process from him this year in general. That's been pretty cool.
How exciting is that to kind of see that go from the time you've known him?
I mean, as a coach, that's, I think as a coach, you're always hoping to be able to just sort of fade back and let the players take control of it all. And that's, when you got a good team, that's usually what happens. And, he's gotten to that point in his career where he's very confident in what we're doing, how we're doing it, and his role in it. And that's pretty fun for a coach to be able to do that.
Is he a good coach?
I think he's an excellent coach.
What about him?
I think he's very clear with what he wants and his expectations of what players are looking for, what he wants routes to look like, where he wants the spacing to be. It's always more effective when he says, I could say the same thing. It's always going to be, it's going to land a little more heavier when he says it versus even if I were to say it. But he's got a great feel for what he expects and what he wants, and there's not a lot of fluff in between for him. He's very direct, and it's the point that's being made, and you make the point, you move on. It's pretty good. He does a good job.
How would you describe his coaching style? Is that anybody is it like yours? Is it like
No, I don't know. I think he's his own. I think he's his own man at that when it comes to coaching, which is good. That's how you want him to be.
He's not a yeller?
No, he is not. He is not, no.
He has the injury behind him. The assumption is he'll have the contract behind him soon. Do you wonder how free he will appear once those things are behind him and he's just focused solely on football?
Yeah, my experience with any guys that are in contract negotiations is whenever it's done, it's always a weight off your shoulders to some degree. There is a business side, and it can get, there is tension, and all those things happen for every negotiation. And so when it's all said and done, and everyone's happy, and the deal is signed, everything feels great, and there's generally a weight lifted. So I'm sure that that's going to be the case. When it's all said and done, it's one less thing to worry about off the field. And so, guys that play great try to diminish all those distractions, and so they can just focus on playing. And hopefully, that's all said and done. That's how he feels about it.
Can you give me a scouting report on Demetric Felton?
Just from watching him, he is a UCLA Bruin, so there's a lot of pride there. But even from the years that he's in Cleveland, they used him a lot of different ways. He's a returner. He's got some shiftiness. He's got some speed. I'm pretty excited to see what he can bring as a back. He's kind of played out of position there some. He's doing a lot of slot receiver-ish type things, and not as much pure running back. And so it'll be fun to see what he looks like for us as a back. And I think he's got some legitimate skill.
Back to Joe. He's gotten off to some slow starts in the past, and obviously each preseason there's been something else he's been dealing with. How do you make sure that this isn't another factor into the slow start?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do your best to come out of the gates fast and execute in the way you want to. I mean, there's certainly things that have gotten in the way a little bit there, but I think every year is a different year. You know, it starts different. You play a different style of teams, and we got 2 really big division games off the bat. So, you know, there's a way we have to play against those teams, and you know, the hope is that, you know, we don't really think about the hindsight of not starting fast. We're just going to go try to start fast. That's the best way I can answer it for you. It's a tough, because the situations are all a little bit different. So there's really not one thing you pin down. But I think it is important for us to start fast this year again with 2 division games out the first 2 weeks is pretty critical.